That is the number one secret.
Okay.
What makes it client focused is that you're working on your elevator pitch, who you're or what you're offering, and then you're tying that to your ideal client. Because as you get to know your ideal client, you want to know that person's biggest struggle, right?
Yes.
So if
Yeah.
you don't know that and you don't have that information, you're not using client focused copy or messaging, whether it's written, verbal, and audio or video, whatever it is, your message isn't
Yeah.
client focused if you're not focused on that problem. And you won't know that problem that you can solve if you aren't doing your research on your ideal client.
Hey, 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 Entreleaders. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to another powerful episode of the Leaders Lab podcast. If you are new here, I am your host, Dr. Charity C. Campbell, better known as Dr. C, and I'm a doctor of management, a world-class millennial global leader, an academic professional, and multi-passionate entrepreneur. Now, here in the Leaders Lab, we talk all things entreleadership, which is entrepreneurship and leadership components put together, communication, and balance as a millennial professional. And I just have one question to ask you today. I mean, I know many of you have these great aspirations to start your business, and you may be thinking traditionally about how you can really reel your people in or find your ideal clients. But are you ready to learn how you can actually communicate the right message to attract your ideal clients and grow your business that aligns with your God-given purpose? If so, honey, make sure you stay tuned because in today's episode, our special guest is here to help us uncover how niching down, however you choose to say it, lands you more clients, and also how to write client focused copy and grow your business. Now, who is this mystery woman that we have with us today? Well, let me introduce you to her. Wellness content writer and copywriting coach Natalie Gensits helps wellness coaches and practitioners stand out online and sign new clients sooner through the power of words. Now, she also helps clients to get their businesses off the ground through her powerful writing skills because she knows how to capture the attention of potential clients. Natalie specializes in copy for websites, blogs, email sequences, lead magnets, and so much more. Her experience in the industry gives her the unique ability to create content that resonates with readers, driving them to take action. Entreleaders, please help me welcome to the lab for the very first time, Miss Natalie Gensits. Welcome to the Leaders Lab, love.
Hey, thank you so much, Dr. Charity. I'm excited to be here with you and your listeners today. Thanks for having me.
It is our pleasure. It is our pleasure. So you are actually talking about you're helping us today with a topic that I didn't actually know was necessary until a couple of years ago. Most of the time when we're thinking about building an online business, and I say online business, but this really applies to all businesses. But when we're thinking about that, we're thinking about all the get your EIN, make sure you have your LLC, make sure you do all of this. Like we think about those types of things first before and different ways to get clients by like word of mouth, as opposed to building this digital real estate. We focus on the physical real estate, but what about the digital, the virtual real estate, and then having the right words to draw in the right people. And it wasn't until a few years ago when I realized that that was necessary. And even as someone who, is an academic professional, I will tell you that it's a whole different ball game when it comes to copywriting. So, I'm glad we have you. I'm glad we have you. So, tell us a little bit about like your story. Like, how did you get started in copywriting?
Well, I've always had a love for writing. My whole career has been spent in marketing and advertising. That's what I went to school
Mhm.
for. That's what I did for, it's almost been 30 years now. But
Wow.
yeah, my heart's always been around writing and that, I think that was a God thing too, because it kind of came out of nowhere when I was 17, and I was like, but we don't even know what an ad agency is in this little town I live in.
Yeah.
But fast forward, and that's where I've been my career. Writing, I don't know, I did a lot of number crunching with my jobs too, and that just made me realize even more how much words really resonated more with me.
Mm-hmm.
And the past 12 years now, I guess I'd say, between my career path, my own wellness journey, and my own faith journeys, they've just kind of led me to this fork in the road where I decided, oh, I want to apply my skills to the wellness industry, because I ended up writing a book actually about healthier eating, based on that's what's helped me the most heal through my journey. Then I, kind of like you're relating to or talking about, I thought I was niched down just being in the wellness arena, and then I realized that wasn't getting me the traction I wanted. I had to niche down further. I say niche, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
why. And then I had to niche down even further. So it led
Wow.
me to work with health coaches, and then even from there to newer health coaches, because newer health coaches are in a very different place than seasoned health coaches. That's what has led me to do what I do today, just following what God has put on my heart. And I feel like he wants me to help other people do what's on their heart. So that's kind of behind the process of what I do, which we'll get into more of.
I love it. And I apologize if you all know I'm in transition here from leaving China, and so we still dealing with the whole network issues here. So I apologize if you see a few glitches that I won't be able to edit out, because I don't want to remove the significant words that Natalie is speaking. So I apologize in advance, Natalie. I
That's
apologize for
okay.
that, but we're gonna pray that the rest of this podcast episode is smooth like butter. Okay, like
Sounds good. Sounds good.
no more mess ups or anything. So the whole thing. Now you mentioned you did some number crunching. Was that specifically in relation to copywriting? Like, was it you started adding up
No,
or was that something totally different?
that was something totally different. When I was working in an ad agency, that's how I got into it, working for an ad agency. They needed somebody to work on the media buying. And so that's what I did for 10 years. And then
Wow.
they had layoffs based on losing a client, and I was part of that. And I was like, okay, this is my chance to go back to get into the copywriting that I really love. I don't know.
Hmm.
I just felt kind of disenchanted with numbers even more after that. Like, you can manipulate those to look statistically favorable to whatever you want, really.
Yeah.
And you manipulate words too, but like, you can choose to be honest with those. So
Yeah.
anyway, I just, yeah,
Okay.
I was number crunching, doing media buying in the ad agency.
Ah, okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So you decided to start your own copywriting business. And so if you were and you've been helping other people, not necessarily start their own copywriting business,
right.
but to be to get themselves on the right track with it. So how would I'm going to volunteer myself. I'm going to volunteer myself as your test subject, as your example here today. How would I get started with copywriting for my business? Like, what would be my very first step that you would recommend?
Okay, yeah, this is where I think my approach is a little different than a lot of people, and I
Okay.
don't know a lot of writers that actually work from the beginning of, as I call it, the beginning, because a lot of people just
Okay.
want to jump in and start writing, and they're like, how do I structure things, blah
Yes.
blah blah. But I
Uh-huh.
want to say, back up, Jasper, back up,
Okay.
Dr. Charity. What?
Okay.
Let's talk about your elevator pitch. We need a good 10-word elevator
Ooh.
pitch, and that is my step one in the process. Which
Did you say 10 words?
10-word elevator pitch, not just your typical elevator pitch, because we're online. If you're in the online world, you need short and
Uh
sweet, right?
oh, you're so wise. Yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot about that. The character limits and everything. So a 10-word elevator pitch.
And you know what? It's not, in stone. It's not like you have to have only 10 words, but if you can get it to 10, 12 words, you're doing
Wow.
yourself this favor. And that doesn't mean give up all the other elevator pitches. You can use those in
Okay.
different circumstances. But
Okay.
if you can get it down to these 10 words, then you're really super focused on what it is you're offering, and everything becomes more clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there
So,
specific 10 words? Because you said these 10 words, and I'm hanging on in there. I'm
oh,
like,
no,
she's
it's
gonna
not as
tell us the
specific.
10 words.
No, it's not. That's the hard part, and why I think a lot of copywriters might, I just shouldn't say a lot, but I know of several that don't work with new coaches, because this part is so individualized and you have to do the homework
Ooh,
behind it if it's going to be from your heart, your God-given purpose, because I
yeah.
can't tell you what that is, right? It
Right,
wouldn't
right.
be it wouldn't be yours. It wouldn't be aligned with you fully. I can help you massage the words, but you ultimately need to pull it out of you. And I help
Yeah.
pull that out of you. And I do that through a lot of journaling prompts, which I have in my workbook, and I can share with you what those are. Um,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, if it was someone like me who would come to you and say, "Hey, I want you to go ahead and write my, my 10-word elevator pitch," and you're like, "No, I I can't because it's personalized," so it comes from your heart. And I said, "Well, I don't know what's in my heart." So you give them this workbook that you created, and then what happens?
What I encourage is for you to go through the workbook, and then from there, I have another workbook about your step two, which I'll reveal shortly. Don't get
Okay,
ahead of
okay,
ourselves. And
okay.
then after you've kind of gone through those two steps, then we really get into the writing part of it. And these first two steps are what's critical to making your copy client focused, because you're bringing out what's in yourself and
Mhm.
how you need to frame that for others. So filling out the workbooks are the first two steps. If somebody prefers to talk it out, then they have the option of getting on a coaching one-on-one session with me, and we can hash out some of it through a session, because it's kind of like,
Okay.
it happens a lot where I'll be talking to people and I'm like, okay, so why are you in the thyroid area? Why are you doing that? Well, because I did this in the past, and I
Mhm.
had this happen, and then a light bulb goes off, and they're like, oh wait, something comes up from the past that reminds them of why they're doing it now. Or maybe it might even come up as to give them a little bit more direction on which path to take right now. So like in thyroid itself,
Mm.
for example, you can go many different routes, right? You can
Yeah,
do full autoimmune, you can do Hashimoto's, blah, blah,
yeah.
blah. That might trigger which way they should focus. So much like the coaching session would be similar to the workbook, in that it's helping you journal or pull out all of these things that have been in your past, so you can see the path where you've been and kind of see the trajectory of that a little bit more clearly.
Okay. So you mentioned steps, and I want to
Mhm.
know what the steps are. So, what are how many steps do you have? I
Well,
think let's ask that
for
first.
the elevator pitch itself, I have 7 steps. Yes. And mostly they're just journaling prompts that I would
Okay.
list and let you know about. And then I have the template that I can share with you to get started. So I like to have
Wow.
people go through the elevator pitch exercise, go through the next exercise, and then kind of revisit your elevator pitch,
Okay.
because you're going to, you can't worry about perfecting it too much right from the get go.
True.
It's going to
True.
evolve as you evolve and get more focused. So, do you want me to talk about what those
Okay.
questions are, or
Well,
save
you
that
can
for
share
another
some.
time?
You can share some of them. No, I would definitely say you can share some of them because I wouldn't want you to give all of them away. Like I want you to save some of them, but I guess share some of the. You have 7 steps, so maybe share the first couple, just as an appetizer, to get us to say, okay, what's the rest there?
Well, sure. And it's not going to sound like rocket science, but it's just really trying to put some structure to your thoughts, I guess. So, first of
Okay.
all, I ask, list what you do. Like, what are the things that you do for your work or you want to do? Because a lot of this is just a brain dump at the beginning, right? Because you need to
Yeah.
put that on paper and then decide which is going to be your focus. So first list out what you do. Second, list out who you serve or want to serve.
Okay.
What type of people, what do you know about them? What are they struggling with? We'll get more into that too when we talk about the ideal clients.
Okay.
The third thing would be to answer, why are you doing this? And as it
Yes.
pertains to health coaches, it's like, why are you focusing on this area of health coaching?
Okay.
So why are you focusing on this area of your business that you're offering, whatever it may be? And whatever you say, go deeper, like write down what comes to mind, but take it a step deeper and think about it in more detail, because
Okay.
there's almost always something more.
Deeper.
And
Something
that's,
more.
yeah. And then the fourth step is kind of going to help you do that. I just say journal your milestones throughout your life. Now that might sound like it'll take a week, but you could just take 30 minutes, 60 minutes, write down your milestones and it sounds weird, but when I did this, again, you can kind of see where you've been in the trajectory of where you are kind of being led. And if you can kind of match that up to your list of who you want to serve and what you do, you'll be
Mm-hmm.
able to fit the pieces together that are more aligned, right? Instead of
Okay.
getting a little bit off track, you'll be in a very clear lane, serving the people that God's called you to serve, doing the thing that He
Yeah.
wants you to do, instead of being a little bit off. And then you've got that kind of nagging feeling that it's not fully aligned, how
Yeah.
that. And I only know these things from my own mistakes and experience, so no judgment at all.
She said she's speaking from experience here, not from judgment. I love it. She said she's speaking from experience, not judgment. So you get a client to go through all of these 7 steps and they come up with 10-word elevator pitch that they are proud of. What then? What after that? Like, what's next? Are
Okay,
they good to go?
well, no. It's never that easy, right? Um,
Never.
and I wanted to mention too, like there is the help statement is a starting point for the elevator pitch, where you talk about, I help who do what with
Yeah.
this solution. That's a
Yes.
great starting point. But then from
Yeah.
there, you want to narrow it down to 10 words as best as you can.
Okay.
Again,
Okay.
so once you've done that and you think you've got it in a reasonable place, then I want to encourage you to get to know your ideal client if you don't
Whew.
already. So some people have a
Okay.
good heartbeat on the ideal client. A lot of
Yeah.
people think they do and they don't. And
Yeah.
again, I was in this phase for a while as well. So the biggest issue I see is people think that your ideal client is a person, women 25 to 45 with whatever, health issue in my case, business challenges in your Entreleader cases. But it shouldn't be a range of people. That's the
Mm.
biggest thing that I see.
Yeah.
Yes, you can end up serving other people. I'm sure you have other people besides millennials listening to this, right? But
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
speaking to millennials because that is your ideal client, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
um, Even within that, what age do you want to choose? Because for given the like 25 to 45 example, or how old are millennials now? I've got to rethink.
Millennials are those who are born from, I believe it's 80
I'm trying to think how old they would
82
be.
to 99.
Is that 30s? If
Right about,
you
yeah. The
so
early what is it? The late 20s, early 30s, late 20s, early 30s to right at the early 40s.
Okay, thank you. I was trying to put that do the math. See, I don't want to do the math.
Me neither. And my math is not the best. And I'm like, okay, well, we gonna make it work. But but yeah,
So for
we're there.
instance, if you're speaking to millennials broadly, the 29-year-old can be in a very different spot from a
Mm,
39-year-old. A
yeah,
29-year-old has different struggles. He or she may be, looking to get married, or
yeah,
still could be single and happy, whatever. But the 40-year-old could have teenagers, or could be, I don't know if they'd be an empty nester yet, but they could be like thinking about traveling and doing things more on their own if the kids are at college. So they're going to have different lifestyles. And when you're talking in client-focused copy and messaging, you want to relate to those day-to-day things. And you can't do that if you're trying to speak to the 29-year-old and the 40-year-old at the same time. So
Yeah.
that's not to say that you can't serve both of them if they come to you. Your message will overflow and overlap to other people. But maybe it's a 6-month period, a year period, whatever works for your business. You focus on the one person that you really want to speak with. And then know that there are clones of that person that you're going to reach.
Yeah. That's like what they call creating your business avatar, right? Or your client avatar. That way, so whenever you write or whenever you record or whenever you're doing like whenever you do an episode or whatever, you are envisioning this avatar,
Yes,
in front of you as the person that you're speaking to.
exactly. And then you
Okay.
can be more direct, and your messages are more geared toward one person. And rather than you're trying to talk to all these people and you don't have a vision of who you're talking to, you can't
Yeah.
speak clearly because you're trying to say too much, you're not focused. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's the same thing as the ideal client avatar, your client avatar, persona. And you can
Yeah.
have multiple of those for your business, but you want to be careful not to be, targeting more than one of them with the same campaign necessarily. You know what I mean? And if you're new
Yeah.
to having a business in general, I would definitely just start with one persona and don't try to do two or three, because it's just get the routine down and then add later when you get
As
more
you go.
savvy at it. Yeah.
So you have quite a bit of experience here when it comes to copywriting. What is your number one secret? What
Mm.
is your number one secret?
Well, besides the client-focused copy, that is my number one secret. Um, and
Okay.
let me take a minute just to expand on that, because that is the number one secret.
Okay.
What makes it client-focused is that you're working on your elevator pitch, what you're offering, and then you're tying that to your ideal client. Because as you get to know your ideal client, you want to know that person's biggest struggle, right?
Yes.
So if
Yeah.
you don't know that and you don't have that information, you're not using client-focused copy or messaging, whether it's written, verbal, and audio or video, whatever it is, your message isn't
Yeah.
client-focused if you're not focused on that problem. And you won't know that problem that you can solve if you aren't doing your research on your ideal client.
Okay.
So I can go on a long time about ideal client, but it is very, very important. And that is the number one tip, doing these first two steps so that you can connect the message. I like to share a visual as best I can without
Okay.
visual, but like you're person A and you're trying to speak to person B out here, and you're talking about all these things that you can offer in the business realm, in the wellness realm, whatever it may be. You're basically showering this other person with a bunch of messages. And I would
Mm.
feel like a dog in a rainstorm trying to shake all the water off. Like, what did you just tell me? I do not know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then if you're not identifying the problem, person A is you, person B is not getting the whole message. It's falling short, right? It's raining right here because you're not going all the way through to the problem.
Yeah.
In wellness world, this could be the matter of somebody, a health coach, talking about you need a mindset shift, and the ideal client is looking for 3 seconds of peace during the day. So they both are related, and you need maybe that mindset shift to get to that moment of peace, but they're not looking for the mindset shift. So your message is falling short. And
Wow.
what we want to use is the direct line communication, where you're here talking this language to your ideal client, saying, hey, I've got this problem. I can help you get the 3 moments of peace that you need right now, even if you're in the middle of a crazy day. And that is going to directly sync up with her needs in that moment and get her engaged with what it is you're presenting.
Okay.
So that's the power of connecting with your ideal client. And that's what helps you sell without being salesy.
That is, well, that and, procrastination. But I feel like that is probably one of my biggest things about selling. And honestly, like, so I'm pretty good with words. I am pretty good with words, but I tend to write too many words, or then I experience like having writer's block. And I'm like, what do I say to this person? How do I get them to, be interested enough to invest? Because if they're interested, they will invest. Right. If there's no investment, if there's no interest, like either they're interested in you, or they're interested in your content, or they're interested in what the final result will be. So they will invest. I find it taxing and time consuming most of the time for me to go through all of these steps and really not know if the copy that I have written is on the level where it speaks to the avatar and says, buy from your trusted friend, buy from your trusted source. Or is it just one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, this is nice. You got a free version? Is there a free, So what are some of the copywriting tips that you can share with us that would help us to be able to sound authentic? Like we are speaking to our ideal client, and build that type of trusted relationship with them.
Okay, well, one tactical way to get the right words is to do the research and survey your ideal clients and get their words and keep a record of those words, and then flip around and use those words in your copy and messaging, right? So I've seen someone write, I'm posting all the time and I'm getting the likes, but I'm not getting any leads. So I use that in my messaging at times, right? So that's just a side note. Again, going back to the ideal client, I can't emphasize that enough. But let's talk about copywriting, because that's what I love. And that's what you're asking. So one of my favorite and best tips is not, again, this may not sound like rocket science, but it's so overlooked, is to use you language, Y-O-U language. There are certain areas where you have to use I, like my help statement. I help you get clear with your Entreleader position. I help you get clients through copy. There's a place to use the I, but further down, if this is a website page, further down, you can say, by working with me, you will receive blah, blah, blah. You will feel, you will realize, you will enjoy, instead of saying, I offer you this, and then I'll call you and blah, blah, blah. Another place I see it is in the about section, where you're talking about your life story, why you're doing what you do. And a lot of times that can be flipped too, like start it off with the I's to get it going, but then you can say, because of this, I can help you, whatever, or through my program, this will do this for you. I got examples of this on my website. I can't think of them off the top of my head to read them verbatim or whatever, but just use your life experience as a way of validation of why you can help others through this step, right? And when you flip it around and use the you language as much as you can and as much as it makes sense, then I like to think about it this way. You're bringing that person onto the field instead of leaving them on the sideline. So if I'm just reading, I help Entreleaders, blah, 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 and I'm like, they, I help them, and I'm like, okay, I'm on the sideline. But when you say, I help you do this, then I'm like, okay, I'm here, I'm in the game. And when I'm in the game, I'm that much closer to buying from you, because I feel like I'm with you. So that's one of my favorite tips. Again, I know a lot of people want to share their stories, and there's a place to do that. It may not be on your about page. It may be in a blog post. You can have your creative outlet in another place and still rant as much as you want, but not have that be the focus of your website, or if you're trying to get somebody to buy something or engage with you, then you want it to be more about you than me.
So wait, hold on, because you see my eyebrows are wrinkled in my face. I'm sure my face is showing something, because I could feel it when it started. So what is what is the ideal about page? Because I've seen so many, even just this year alone, and it's been so confusing. I see a lot of people say, "Oh no, the about page has to be super long, and you have to, you those who are interested, the deep-seated fans of your brand, they're going to be the ones who read all the way through to the end. And those will also be the ones who would buy from you and blah, blah, blah." And I'm just like, okay, great. Listen, coming up with stuff to write about, even just about myself, that's a lot. So what should the ideal about page look like then?
Well, you're going to hear a lot of different things from different people, right? And there's not a one set answer, I wouldn't say. But what I like
Okay.
to do is, I started my page. I have it up now so I can reference it a little bit.
Okay.
Because it's been a while since I wrote it. But I talk about me. I do introduce myself, because people are looking for information and your picture at that point. I know I hesitated the longest time. I'm like, do I really need to put my picture? I didn't. I didn't want to do all that. But then I talk about how my work history will help them, and
Okay.
my wellness journey has led me through places where I can help you as a health coach because I've been through some of this on my own, right? And I know the
Yeah.
lingo. And then I've talked about how I wrote a book, and that lends to, again, my knowledge about nutrition and how that would benefit you because I have that background, right? And so then I just have a little mission statement about what I want to do to help you. And as I'm reading it now, it's even a little bit more I than it should be when I'm reading my own stuff. But at the end, I'm talking about you become freer to transform more lives or enjoy more of your own. So
Hmm.
basically, you want to talk about a little bit of background about yourself, some bullet points or little icons, areas where these traits or characteristics or parts of your life lend to what it is you're offering as far as services. And then you might want to have a little mission statement that kind of sums everything up nicely and relate it back to how that benefits them.
And then
And
always have a call to action.
yes, always have your call to action. I am not a big fan of long copy.
Okay.
I know they're saying blog posts should be 1,500 to 2,200 words ideally, and I'm just like,
Hmm.
wow,
Hmm.
you've lost me. Like
Hmm.
I'm not my best ideal client because I'm like short attention span. I don't watch video. I don't read long blogs, so I don't usually write the long blogs either. I can because I can get wordy, but you also have to keep in mind people skim.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's why it's good to use bullet points or little
Yeah.
sections so that it's easier to read and you can call out the most important things. Yeah.
Do you find that because I was laughing when you said you have a short attention span, you don't want to read long stuff, so you don't write long stuff, that's been me. So I'm like, there are so many things that because I don't like them and I don't appreciate them, that I don't want to do because I feel like, well, nobody else will either.
Mhm.
And not realizing that there are some people who live for long blog posts, and I'm just like, you have nothing better to do. Like, I mean, they live for the long, the really long form content. But because for me, I am a skimmer. I will
Mhm.
skim all through everything and find the keywords that I'm looking for, and then I'm just like, okay, this is fine. But if it's too long, I click off. And
Mhm.
so that's one of the things that, for me, I would like, I guess I could challenge myself to step outside of my own comfort zone, which is if I don't like it, then why am I going to do it? But at the end of the day, if my avatar if my ideal client is the one that does like long blog posts, then I guess I need to, guess I need to lengthen it up. I don't know. What do you think about that?
You hit the nail on the head because you have to do what your ideal client really is looking for. And if
Okay.
I would assume millennials are going to have the shorter attention span and not read the lengthy things, but
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong. I'm not, the millennials are not my target audience so
Mm-hmm.
far, but all of what I'm talking about today certainly can be applied to your business,
Anyway,
your
yeah.
Entreleader businesses. But
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a key point to know, because besides knowing your ideal client's pain point, you want to know where he or she hangs out online. What type of thing is she consuming? Is she looking at blog posts, and are they long or short? Which blog posts? What Facebook groups, or what podcasts is she listening to? And podcasts versus blog posts, that all plays into when you're creating the lead magnet or freebie. Which format should
Yeah.
you use? Well, what's your ideal client looking for, and what does he or she prefer? So the
Yeah.
same thing for the blog post, Dr. Charity, is you want to do what your ideal clients are looking for. If
I love
that
it.
pushes you out of your comfort zone, then so be it. But
Listen, I would rather be out of my comfort zone and making a profit than in my comfort zone making excuses and not making any money, like or anything, which currently trying to get out of the latter. I'm trying to make it into the former. So I definitely appreciate you saying that. I mentioned in your bio that you specialize in websites and blogs, email sequences, and lead magnets, and so much more. Can you talk to me about how you put these lead magnets together and the email sequences? Like, is there an ideal amount of emails and a sequence that you should have, or is it ever too many? Like, is there such thing as too many emails? Because I feel like it is.
I think you need to have a couple of different approaches. So you might have heard the
Okay.
term evergreen email
Yes.
sequence. So I think you need to have that and let that be like your welcoming and nurturing sequence, where you're trying to introduce yourself, get them on a call eventually. That's building the know, like, and trust. So that to me is 7 to 9 emails, something around that line. And this is not a hard number, but just a general, because you can have anything from 5 to 9 emails. And you're not necessarily trying to get that person on the call till like the 5th email and the 9th email. You want to warm up.
Wow.
And then separate from that, you can have long-term nurturing sequence, which could be, depends on your ideal client and what they're looking for. Once a week, once every, or twice a week. I have a lot of people sending them every day, and I'm not a fan of that.
Well, I had a question, and I apologize to cut you off, but I had a question. Now, you asked me if I knew what evergreen content
Oh,
was, and I
yes.
said yes. But then I thought about it. I
Oh,
said,
yeah.
well, what if one of the listeners or viewer has no idea what that is? Could you explain?
Sure. So for the evergreen, in case you're not sure what that is, the evergreen email sequence is something that is running in the background all the time. It's on automation, and it's just there capturing new leads and helping to nurture them onto a call with you, or whatever that first step might be. Generally, this could be the delivery of a freebie that you're offering, followed by some emails that are welcoming them, introducing them to you a little bit more. And, each email is a little bit different, adding some value, and then eventually getting you on a call. So this evergreen sequence, I would imagine being 7 to 9 emails. Again, there's no hard fast rule, but for me, it's 7 to 9 emails. You're maybe trying to get them on a call like the 5th email and the 9th email. It's not like you're doing it every single email because you're wanting to just add value. You're bringing that lead from being a cold lead to a warm lead, developing the relationship a bit. So that's running for you as an evergreen content. And
Okay.
then separate from that, you would have another long-term nurturing email sequence. I mean, there are many different sequences you can have, but these are kind of ongoing. The long-term nurturing is the once or twice weekly, or maybe it's, if you don't need to be in touch with your ideal client that often, maybe it's once a month, an email newsletter.
That's actually a good question. How often should you send out an email?
Well, again, that's going to depend on your ideal client and what he or she is looking to receive. I get a lot of people that send me emails every day, and I'm just like, too much. Bye bye.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I unsubscribe. But see, I'm not my ideal client. But I
Mhm.
think, in terms of what I produce, I think about it in terms of whether or not I would like it. And
Mhm.
I've been trying to get myself not to do that. Like I honestly have been trying to get myself to pivot from doing what I like and doing what I think is best, talking about, topics that I like, and talking about topics that my ideal client would want. So that's why when I ask, how often should an email be sent?
It
Right.
depends. It depends
Yes.
on what you're doing too. Like if you're just trying to keep a relationship going, you're going to send something once a week or once a month, even if you're not hard selling anything and you don't have a lot of content that you produce. If you're
Okay.
trying to sell something, then you're going to ramp it up. You might send 3 emails in a week. You've got to
Right.
also, it's a hard balance because you've got to remember people don't read every single email.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
it feels like you're bombarding them, but in reality
Okay.
is they're not reading everything. And you'll
Yeah.
start to see if you're paying attention to your opt-outs or unsubscribes, you'll see people like, sorry, too much. And then you'll know that's too many and you can back off a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
But it takes like 7 exposures for somebody to really read something to see a message. So you got to keep that in mind too. You feel
Okay.
like you're hammering it too much, but there's a balance. You just kind of have to feel it out. And again, if it's something urgent and new, you're going to pound it more with more emails, more frequency, more social media posts, whatever it may be. If
To
it's
get that
just,
attention.
yeah, and if it's just building a rapport or relationship, then you can space it out more and be a little bit more considerate of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So before I ask you the last question that I'm going to ask, before I ask you the last question, which lead magnet, which for those of you who are new, you're like lead magnet and freebie, but most of you guys, you already know about this, but which lead magnet would you say is the easiest to produce and the fastest to get into the hands of your ideal client?
Aha. I'm going to say it's the one that your ideal client is looking for. It's probably not the answer that you
No,
want.
no, I want something specific,
I
like,
know. Well, the easiest thing for me to produce was an audio training because you can do that on your
yes,
iPhone. And it's mobile,
yes,
it's on the go, it's quick. Uh,
yes.
for people with short attention spans, it's great.
Yeah. How long was your audio training?
18 minutes, so not super long. Not long at all. The thing is, like, we kind of tend to think we need to give like a ton of information, and we
Yeah.
have to remember people might get excited about it at first, but like I've gotten 30-page lead mag or freebies, and then I'll skim through it and I'll be like, this is great, and then I don't use it because there's too
Never
much.
pick it up again.
Yeah, there's too much.
Never look at it again.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would want to suggest this because this is pretty critical with the ideal client and lead magnet. When you're thinking about what you're offering in your elevator pitch, you want to think about it in terms of I want to help my person get from point A to Z. That's overall what I'm doing, A to Z. The
Yes.
lead magnet is what gets them from A to B. That's your best lead magnet. The first step. If they're wanting to get to Z, what is the first step? That is your gold idea for a lead magnet because they're ready to do that. They needed this first step, and that's where you meet them where they are.
I like that a lot. That makes sense to me. You saying, hey, in the elevator pitch, we're talking about what we help people do, but a part of your purpose or especially your mission is to help whoever your ideal client is to go from A to Z. Just to go from A to B, the first thing you need to do is list it in this freebie, or it's in this audio training, or it's in this or that, this ebook, this workbook, whatever.
Right.
And then after you get them there from A to B, how do you get them from B to Z? Is that with your own coaching program, online courses, more digital products? Like what?
Well, that's where your email sequences come into play because you can start feeding them little bits of pieces. You don't have to give them a freebie each email, but you can give them a free tip in one email. Like say, hey, have you enjoyed your freebie? Then I want you to think about this next, or here's a few tips to help you after that. And then you
Yeah.
just keep moving them forward just a little bit. And then you might
Wow.
pop in there with something that's just a little bit of story about yourself that gives them an example to follow, basically.
Okay.
So that's where the email can come in to work for you a lot.
Okay.
Keep carrying
I
them through
like
that
it.
journey. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, I want to thank you because that was very thorough and it's giving me an idea of what I can create and what I can work towards and how I can help, my ideal client go from A to Z. Now I know the first A to B is the freebie. And then the email sequence is getting them from B to whatever until I get to like, a course or something or some other lead magnet that could be paid, and then basically nurture them and guide them to Z from there on. So I definitely thank you for that.
Sure.
Before we end our episode today, I do have one question to ask you. What is the one characteristic that you believe every leader should have?
Well, that characteristic to me, I believe, is humility is the one characteristic every leader should have. And
Okay.
I think this comes a lot from just my faith journey, because if you have humility and you can humble yourself before God and listen to what He's speaking to you, then you're going to pick up all the other qualities that you need to have, whether it be confidence or authenticity or whatever it may
Mm,
be. He will guide you. And if you can humble yourself and ask for that guidance, then doors open to all the other things that you need, basically.
I love it. Now, can I tell you, let me bring myself back up here. Can I tell you that you are the third person so far that has said humility?
Am I? I wasn't sure. I wondered.
You are the third person so far that has said humility. And I'm just like, wow. Okay. Okay. Somebody listen, it's when I ask this question, it's not just for me. So somebody really needs to hear that, to not be prideful, but to be humble,
Mhm.
especially in leadership positions. So this is awesome. For those of you who have been tuning into the entire episode, we want to say thank you so much. And Natalie, I cannot thank you enough for being with us in the Leaders Lab on today.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Charity. It's been a pleasure, and I wish you all the best with your business and your podcast. And I'm happy
Thank
to
you.
help you in any way that I can going forward.
Excellent. Listen, can you tell us what's the best way for someone to get into contact with you? How can they connect
Um,
with you?
the best way is email for me. I guess I'm a little old school. I don't know, Um, email and my website are the best forms of reaching out to me.
Okay. And for those of you who are listening to the audio version of the podcast and you can't see the screen, don't worry. It's Natalie at nataliegensits.com. Also, her website is nataliegensits.com. And you can also just check the show notes, and all of her contact information will be right there where you can connect with her and find out more information about her. And also, if you're watching the video version of this on YouTube, of course, you could check the description box below and you'll have all of the ways that you can connect with Natalie on today. So again, thank you so much for being with us in the Leaders Lab. I appreciate you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate being able to share here today.
Excellent. And listen, Entreleaders, I really hope that you, despite the technical errors and issues that we've been having, I really hope that you were able to get something valuable from today's talk, from today's sharing. And don't forget that you can connect with me everywhere on social media at DrCharityTV. You can subscribe to the Leaders Lab podcast on both the audio version and the video version. Download today's episode, because some of y'all, I know you're gonna be contacting Natalie to get this elevator pitch together. And don't forget that you can rate, comment, and share the podcast so that we can continue reaching millennial entreleaders all across the globe. So thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the Leaders Lab podcast, and I'll see you all next week in the lab.
Thank you for listening to the Leaders Lab podcast. Visit our website at www.drcharitytv.com.